Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ellen Friedman.
Thank you for joining us as we mark the 104th anniversary of Legal Aid at Work. I'm Ellen Friedman, Chair of the Board of Directors. I'm pleased that we found a way to overcome the challenges of coming together this year, gathering in solidarity and support in this virtual event space. This year is like no other. Not only has the pandemic constricted our lives, but it has caused economic upheaval that has greatly affected the low-income families that we serve. We have never witnessed the suffering that we see each day or experienced the waves of people seeking information, guidance, and representation with regard to unemployment and disability insurance, sick days, workers' compensation, and paid leave under rapidly changing laws. Legal aid at work is needed now more than ever during these turbulent times. While the pandemic looms large in our daily lives, the struggle to overcome systematic racism seems finally to have captured the nation's and indeed the world's attention. Now there is a growing movement around Black Lives Matter and its allies, including Legal Aid at Work, to seek lasting change. Tonight we are honored to present our 2020 Tobriner Award to Alicia Garza for her trailblazing leadership as a co-founder of Black Lives Matter, her meaningful advocacy for domestic workers, and her powerful voice in the call for equality for all oppressed people across the globe. It is also our privilege to welcome as our keynote speaker Congresswoman Katie Porter, who in her short tenure as representative of California's 45th District has emerged as a strong and clarion voice for fairness, justice, and democratic values, which in these times could not be more important. Now I'd like to turn the program over to our MC, Buzz Fraun. Buzz has served on Legal Aid at Work's Board of Directors for many years, including as chair for 2 years. We hope that you enjoy the hour. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Ellen. Good evening and welcome to Now is the Moment. We're excited to share with you how Legal Aid at Work is rising to meet this moment and taking action at an unprecedented time. As experts in income protection programs like unemployment insurance and paid leave, we're helping a record number of low-wage workers secure benefits that are crucial to their economic survival. Our clients are not only members of the essential workforce, but they're also overwhelmingly among those who are most devastated by this pandemic. Our clients work on the front lines of health and service jobs, and they're at high risk of contracting COVID-19. Plus, many of them have lost their livelihoods and their minimum wage jobs because their businesses have been shuttered. Just as we've done for over a century of serving low-wage workers, we are rising to meet this moment. In a few minutes, we'll hear more about how Legal Aid at Work is helping our communities through this crisis. But first, let me express my deepest appreciation to all those who have made possible the work that Legal Aid at Work does. First and foremost, our 41 amazing staff members. They deserve our immense admiration and gratitude as they have moved seamlessly to working remotely while not missing a step in providing services with competence and compassion. Next, let's thank our board members who give so generously of their expertise, leadership, resources, and time, contributions that are instrumental to helping Legal Aid at Work do its job. Also, thanks to all of the pro bono attorneys, clinic volunteers, law schools, law firms, businesses, grant makers, and law students who provide the resources, their time, and the funds so that we can serve these low-wage workers and their families across our state. Let me also take just a minute to thank the law firms that have contributed at or above the $25,000 level to sponsor tonight's event. First, our leader sponsor, the law firm Leaf, Cabraser, Hyman, and Bernstein. Next, sponsors at our founders level, which include the Cooley firm, Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett, and the Wilson, Sonsini, Goodrich, and Rosati Foundation. And then also our visionary sponsor, Latham and Watkins. Let me also particularly thank Gail Hurd for her help in securing Congresswoman Katie Porter's joining us here tonight. And thank you, Gail, for your ongoing and generous support of the organization. Finally, we're delighted to have all of you here joining us. Your support provides the resources that we need to serve low-wage workers and their families across the state. And now I'll say what you probably expected to hear, and I'll just make it clear. We need your support. With the increase in demand for our services, there's an increased need for the funds to support those services. I'm asking you, each of you, tonight to join us in this fundraising effort. If you're here as a guest and you've never supported the organization before, now is a great time to start. If you've already been a supporter, please make another donation. Every dollar counts. So whether you're contributing at $25, $100, $1,000, or even $10,000, it makes a difference. I'm going to ask you to text the word workers to 41444. You'll see that across the bottom of your screen throughout the event tonight. And any support that you can provide us will absolutely help these workers secure the economic justice that they deserve. Because now is the moment to step forward and support them. We've got a full program tonight, so let's get started. First up is Alexis Alvarez, and I'm pleased to introduce Alexis. She's one of the staff attorneys at Legal Aid at Work. She'll talk with you about some of the work that she's done in the disability rights program, and she'll talk about some of the other initiatives and successes that are going on at Legal Aid at Work. Following Alexis, you'll hear from two of our clients who will share their stories with you. So let me turn it over to Alexis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexis Alvarez. I'm a senior staff attorney at Legal Aid at Work, and I am honored to have the opportunity of addressing you, our community of supporters and friends. We are in a pivotal moment in history, a moment defined by a pandemic that has exacerbated centuries-old inequities and structural inequalities that continue to have devastating effects on the people and communities that we serve. In this moment, we at Legal Aid at Work affirm our commitment to root these injustices out. Commitment leads to action, and for over 100 years, the staff of Legal Aid at Work have committed themselves, their energy, their passion, their skills, and determination to eradicating injustices by protecting, enforcing, and expanding the civil rights of marginalized people. Over the past year, Legal Aid at Work's commitment has led us to support the collective action of immigrant workers and workers of color, like the Burma Superstar Kitchen workers who came together to challenge their employers' theft of their wages. With the help of Legal Aid at Work and our co-counsel at Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Asian Law Caucus, and Centro Regal de la Raza, these workers not only secured a $1.3 million settlement, they also made real changes in their workplace, like having paid workers' rights trainings for staff and management. Our commitment led us to the California legislature, where we are co-sponsoring bills that will expand access to job-protected paid family leave. Many people don't realize that for millions of workers, even when they qualify to receive income from the state's paid family leave program, they can still be fired legally by their employers when they take it. In partnership with Governor Newsom and as a member of his paid family leave task force, we are making sure that workers do not have to choose between caring for themselves or their families and their jobs. Our commitment to justice led our fight for gender equity in sports at Oakland Unified School District, where, when facing budget cuts, the district had initially announced a plan to balance their budget on the backs of girls by disproportionately cutting their sports programs in violation of federal law. We worked with the district to develop a plan that ensures that the 15,000 girls in the district finally enjoy a level playing field. Our commitment also led us to combat labor trafficking by helping trafficked workers like Irene, a human rights activist who was fleeing persecution from her home country. Irene was forced to work without pay, cleaning and providing childcare for over 16 hours a day. Legal Aid at Work's dedicated staff helped Irene find the confidence to tell her story and secure a $177,000 award for the extreme violation she experienced. Our commitment to root out inequity led our efforts to remove barriers to jobs for formerly incarcerated people. For example, we helped Jeff, a 59-year-old African-American man whose offer of a hospital porter position was revoked after an 11-year-old conviction came up on his background check. We wrote to his prospective employer, explaining the circumstances of his conviction and his rehabilitation efforts over the past decade. After receiving the letter, the employer reconsidered its decision, and Jeff is now considered one of their best employees. Our commitment also led us to file suit in the Central Valley against California's largest beef producer, Harris Ranch, for illegally firing our client Yolanda, a 20-year employee, for taking leave to undergo breast cancer treatment. Our commitment led us to file suit on behalf of Aisha, an Afghan woman whose employer ordered her to screen out any potential customers whose names sounded Middle Eastern or Indian. We, along with Mora Employment Law and in partnership with the EEOC, helped Aisha put a stop to this unlawful practice that targeted her own community. Our commitment also led us to assist Flint, a transgender worker in San Francisco who was repeatedly misgendered and harassed on the job. We obtained a $150,000 settlement and powerful injunctive relief to prevent other transgender workers from being similarly harassed. But most importantly, our commitment to justice leads us back to our clients, the people and communities that have lived through these inequities and allowed us to join them in fighting back and creating change. People like Mathan Czar and Pew Castillo, who joined forces with us to expose and put a stop to the ongoing rampant sexual harassment they experienced at USPS. They've joined us to tell their story, and they wanted to share this message with you now.
So what happened is when I find out May, my coworker, got harassed by the same guy. So I feel like, this gotta be stopped. So that's why it's not all, I regretted it. I didn't report it in the first time when he harassed me. So that's why, other woman got harassed by him. So that's why I feel like I said, like, no, it has to be stopped and I need to report this.
But I met with my postmaster. I asked him, okay, how did you do with him? Because he in the same time working, and he's gonna do more for me. He's gonna, retaliation to me. Everything is a lot of affected my working hour. So they said, oh, can you do letter warning to him? He said no, because he's a supervisor. And okay, how about suspension? Can you give him suspension? They said no.
It feels relief. I mean, I don't want to see his face ever again anyway. So it is good. I mean, I'm glad that we got to negotiate with the post office about this. But still, like I say, I'm still worried about other women, and I hope he changed. But this is him. I don't know,
We say a lot of women because he's gonna be supervisor. Is other women very dangerous because everything's his decision, everything by his law.
I really appreciate it. Just not only your team, Julia, Wendy. I'm really appreciate all of you guys, because without you guys, I don't know. We're lost already, you know. Before this case, we're trying to call a lot of law firms before, you know, nobody, well, they take the note, nobody really care. Nobody really call us back, you know. I mean, I'm glad you guys are there for us. You know, I really do appreciate it. And women like us, we need those kinds of lawyer who really care about, you know, what's happening to us. I- I'm so happy that, you know, we have a chance to work with you guys.
If you feel like you are not safety, you just ask for the legal aid award. They really, good.
I want to tell all of the women, if it's something happened, reported it right away, but not only your supervisor, not only your postmaster. You got to have some legal help right away.
Thank you, May and Pugh, for sharing with us what fighting for your rights together with Legal Aid at Work meant to you. Now, we are going to share with you another client's story about what it meant to her to have Legal Aid at Work fighting in her corner.
Yo trabajaba en un lugar donde le dan asistencia a personas mayores. Trabajé como caregiver y como cocinera. Yo era la única de las que empezamos. Yo tenía mi departamento con todas mis cosas, pagaba mi renta y todo porque yo tenía un sueldo. Me diagnosticaron con el cáncer en el seno. I had to have a mastectomy. I sent the doctor orders because I need a little bit more time. And they told me, no, you're out of the system because the leave absence is done. Se me hacía como que tiran un trapo viejo a la basura. Ya no sirves a Dios.
I was in the Coast Guard for a while before law school. I've seen a lot of workers' rights issues. Seeing people overworked, underpaid, can't feed their families. I mean, that's why I do this. The Workers' Rights Clinic provides employment advice to low-income workers. It's designed to be accessible to people who are working poor, who are often balancing sometimes more than one job and trying to take care of their families.
They come with a variety of questions, and we have the expertise to address virtually all of the issues they bring to us. We wanted to provide a vehicle for people to be able to see a lawyer for free and get really good legal advice.
The Workers' Rights Clinic is so important for law students. You're actually grounding yourself in the law and the actual world.
We have a whole crew of volunteer lawyers from throughout the bar that contribute their time to supervise law students and help clients during the clinic. The clinic in the last 27 years has grown from a location in the Bay Area to multiple locations throughout the state of California. The greatest potential for this clinic is to ultimately become a statewide, complete safety net for workers anywhere who need help with their employment problems, regardless of what the problems are, regardless of who the clients are or where they live.
La Clínica de Derechos del Trabajador me ayudó porque lo que se le pedía, pues ya estaban de acuerdo. Pagándome los días de enfermedad que no me habían pagado y que no me habían aceptado. Me hizo sentir que yo no estaba pidiendo nada injusto. Pero ahorita ya me siento más tranquila. Por el hecho nada más de saber que tenía yo la razón. Y que no estoy tan viejita como para no poder trabajar.
Hi, I'm Mike Gately. I'm the director of the Workers' Rights Clinic at Legal Aid at Work. Our clinic trains law students to provide high-quality, free legal advice to low-wage workers. And we serve about 1,200 clients a year at 12 different locations throughout the state. But that was all before COVID. Starting March 6th, when we learned that Stanford Law School had decided to go to a virtual learning platform, we sort of knew they were the canary in the coal mine and decided to take all of our clinics virtually as well. And starting that next week, it began a very rough ride for clients. I remember very specifically hearing from a woman who's a domestic worker who was living in the home of her employers, and she needed emergency dental surgery. And when she returned from getting that surgery, she found herself locked out by the owners. And so she not only lost her job that day, but she also lost her home. And I thought to myself, like, who does that? And I was so upset that I was telling my husband, Mike, that I think this is going to be a really difficult time for people going forward. And sure enough, it was the beginning of a very tough ride for many, many clients. Who are our clients? They're people of color, people who are disproportionately devastated by the virus itself, and also work for industries that have disproportionately higher rates of unemployment. And we help undocumented workers, people who have been denied some of the basic benefits that other Californians get, such as unemployment insurance, and a variety of other people who are facing very difficult COVID-related workplace situations. In 2019, we helped roughly 1,200 workers, and that's the same amount of people that we've provided legal services to in the last 6 weeks alone. And yeah, I have to say, I'm glad we're here trying to provide a legal safety net to people who otherwise can't afford a lawyer. And for that, I'm very grateful, and I want to say thank you to my team for adapting to this virtual reality that we have, to the law students who are there with us throughout, and to the volunteer lawyers who have been helping us out in the program as well. And I'll close by saying thank you to you all. I know my colleagues would agree with me in saying that your support has been invaluable to us, and frankly, we could not have done the work we do without you. So thank you again.
A big thank you to our staff attorneys, Alexis and Mike, and a huge heartfelt gratitude to our clients who so courageously shared their stories with us. Legal Aid at Work is often the only place that low-wage workers can turn to for help when they confront the devastating loss of a job, lost wages, denied leave or other benefits, or threats to their health and safety. And when they do turn to us, the help that they receive is free. And that's because of the support of folks like you. So if you haven't already made a contribution this evening, please text workers to 41444 and ensure that we'll be able to do even more of this work going forward. Now, I'm very pleased to present the recipient of last year's Matthew O. Tobriner Award, the Secretary of California's Labor Workforce and Development Agency, Secretary Julie Su. As a nationally recognized expert on workers' rights and civil rights, Julie has dedicated her legal career to advancing justice on behalf of poor and disenfranchised community. Secretary Su knows our work well. Legal Aid at Work has partnered closely with her for years, including when she was California's labor commissioner before Governor Newsom appointed her to her current position, where she continues to be a fierce advocate for low-wage workers. Secretary Su.
This is Julie Su, California Labor Secretary. It was an honor for me to be with you at your dinner last year to receive the Tobriner Public Service Award, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of tonight's celebration of, and to bask in the light that is, your awardee tonight, Alicia Garza. Since last year's dinner, where we resolved to continue fighting with the state's most vulnerable workers, we have been hit by a global pandemic and more evidence of the brutal reality of anti-Black racism. These have revealed deep fractures in our society. They have also been stark reminders of the importance of everything Legal Aid at Work does. I've seen this work up close in the clinics you've set up in the San Francisco and Oakland offices of the Labor Commissioner, and now in Santa Rosa too, which is amazing, and your advocacy for expanded protections like paid leave. In the last few months, Legal Aid at Work has been instrumental in helping Californians who need unemployment insurance benefits during this time. Since March, over 5.5 million Californians have applied for unemployment insurance and pandemic unemployment assistance. We have paid out over $30 billion. Legal Aid at Work has been a critical voice in identifying barriers and issues facing vulnerable workers in accessing these benefits. The attorneys and legal counselors at Legal Aid at Work are the best in the field, the absolute top of our profession. Immigrants and low-wage workers have no better source of information, advocacy, and free legal help than Legal Aid at Work. I know this firsthand, both as your partner and through your demands for accountability when needed. We listen to you because you are thoughtful, write on the law, develop practical solutions, and always stay true to your mission. Now, in the next year, we have an opportunity not just to rebuild our economy, but to reimagine it, to recover from this pandemic-induced economic crisis better than we entered. I look forward to working with you to build a just economy where all workers are valued, where we uplift the jobs done by Black workers, other workers of color, women, and immigrants, where we are not choosing between equity and growth, but instead operating by what we know to be the truth, that a strong economy is built on economic resilience and justice, hand in hand. In this moment of grief, collective anger, and righteous protest, your work gives me hope, and I thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Secretary Su, for your inspired leadership in these unprecedented times. Thank you also for recognizing the broad scope and deep impact throughout the state of Legal Aid at Work's efforts on behalf of low-wage workers. And let's be sure that that can be a lasting impact as we navigate the months ahead. I ask you all once again to join us in helping to sustain this work by making a contribution and texting the word workers to 41444. Now, here to present our special guest and speaker is our esteemed board member and distinguished employment and labor law scholar, Berkeley Law Professor, Catherine Fisk. Catherine.
Thank you very much, Buzz, and thank you everyone at Legal Aid at Work for all you do. Congresswoman Katie Porter is a visionary, tireless, brilliant, and creative advocate for working people, and I'm honored to introduce her. Before she ran for Congress, I had the pleasure to recruit her to join the faculty of the new law school at UC Irvine in 2011. As a fearless innovator, she was willing to join an unranked startup law school that had not yet been granted even provisional accreditation. She threw herself into work on behalf of California consumers and workers and was appointed by the California Attorney General to be the state's independent monitor of banks in a nationwide $25 billion mortgage fraud settlement. The Monitor program reviewed and responded to over 5,000 complaints and intervened with the banks to implement reforms. As an institution builder, Professor Porter founded a consumer protection clinic at UCI Law School to involve students in the Monitor's work. The consumer law clinic that grew out of that is still thriving today, representing those with student loan debt who are struggling with the 99% rate of denials of applications of loan forgiveness. Since being elected to Congress in 2018, Representative Porter has introduced legislation to increase the availability of family leave and childcare, to make medical care more affordable and more culturally sensitive, and to provide educational loan forgiveness to victims of predatory lending. In her service on the House Financial Services Committee and the House Oversight and Reform Committee, Representative Porter has become one of the most feared questioners of corporate CEOs, wealthy bankers, and Trump administration officials. She has managed to do all this while raising her 3 children, Her youngest, Betsy, named Elizabeth in honor of Elizabeth Warren, Katie's mentor, was born while Katie was the California Mortgage Settlement Monitor. Representative Porter is a brilliant lawyer, a devoted mom, and a national treasure. We are lucky to have her in Congress working on the issues that matter to the clients and staff of Legal Aid at Work. And now I want to thank Representative Porter for speaking to Legal Aid at Work. Representative Porter?
Thank you, Catherine, for that warm introduction, and thanks to Legal Aid at Work for having me here. And thank you for over 100 years of fighting for low-income working families. It's an extremely difficult time to be a typical American worker. Earlier this month, 2 major economic events happened, and they really are the tale of our 2 Americas. First, the stock market erased its losses for the year. It's completely recovered from the shock caused by coronavirus. And second, the National Bureau of Economic Research declared that the US economy entered its first recession in over a decade. The unemployment rate in May was in the double digits, about 16%. And in just 2 months this spring, 36.5 million Americans filed unemployment claims. People are hurting. For those who are still employed, the basic worker bargain is in many cases a thing of the past. More and more of today's jobs come with extremely limited benefits and even more limited protections from corporate abuse. Monopolies and multinationals with behemoth lobbying arms have spent decades working to chip away at a foundation of employment that helped America build a robust middle class. Over the past few months, the degree to which our workers have been left out to dry by our economy has been made painfully clear. We're seeing photos of truck drivers with frayed masks and latex gloves held together with duct tape. In my district, I'm hearing from parents of young kids being put in the position of choosing whether to lose their jobs or leave their kids home alone, or workers who are afraid to ask questions about safety for fear of retaliation. The efforts of organizations like Legal Aid at Work have never been more essential. For those who've seen me in congressional hearings, I always try to do my research. And my homework preparing for this event was such joyful learning. I thought I knew what Legal Aid at Work did, but the breadth of issues that this organization tackles is remarkable. Yesterday was the 48th anniversary of Title IX, which is fitting given that Legal Aid at Work just reached a settlement with Oakland schools on behalf of girls who were effectively excluded from the school's athletic programming. For the thousands of Oakland students for whom extracurricular activities like sports are or should be an integral part of their school experience, this is a real win for educational equality. But our work is not done. Sadly, we are not in a place as a nation to expect uniform, equal access to these programs. And that is especially true for lower income communities, which have fewer resources to take on these fights. I have an 8-year-old daughter, Betsy, and she is fierce. And I sleep a little better knowing that Legal Aid at Work is fighting these battles on behalf of all Californians. Legal Aid is also continuing to fight for justice for victims of wage theft. In 1 year alone, you secured over $2.5 million in settlements for low-wage workers. That is real money that will help put food on these families' tables. And just as much, it is a tangible sign to them that justice is served, that workers are not always at the mercy of employers, and that the balance of power can, with allies and champions like each of you, be swung back to workers. From expanding paid family leave protections to all Californians, including low-wage workers, to punishing those who retaliate against employees who want a fair and just workplace, Legal Aid at Work is changing lives and shaping our society. And it is doing so in a way to better reflect our diversity and to better protect the little guy and girl in the face of mounting corporate power and resulting inequality. I've been trying to keep up with you, doing everything I can to defend workers' rights in Congress. Last month, I voted for the HEROES Act to increase OSHA funding and create temporary rules to keep workers safe, because the Trump administration is refusing to do so. I've called out CVS and Amazon for playing fast and loose with worker safety. I recently joined a colleague in requesting that frontline healthcare providers be afforded paid sick leave benefits. And I joined a letter to the National Labor Relations Board asking that the board immediately pursue injunctive relief to reinstate workers who were fired for engaging in organizing and other protected activities during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the CARES Act was first passed, I called for large employers, those with over 500 employees, to have to provide the same paid leave as everyone else. The CARES Act only required smaller businesses to extend these benefits, which is nonsensical until you account for the lobbying power of the country's largest corporations. In fact, as we all know, it is often easier for the largest employers to provide and comply with the law, but that doesn't mean that they do it. To make the imbalance baked into our political and economic systems even more egregious, these same workers that are fighting for basic employment rights are also the very taxpayers who are funding the largest corporate bailout in our nation's history. The CARES Act provided about $500 billion to companies with basically no strings attached, zero requirements that recipients maintain their workforce or reduce executive compensation. And I've sent numerous letters to the Federal Reserve and Treasury asking why the Trump administration is not requiring accountability in exchange for these taxpayer dollars. I've also been leading the charge, along with Senator Kamala Harris, to demand transparency into the recipients of another taxpayer-funded bailout program, Paycheck Protection Grants for small businesses. These programs are ripe for abuse due to the huge scope of this spending and the ability of Wall Street banks and Trump officials to point their fingers at each other for any problems or abuses. We need to be scrutinizing every dollar spent that is not directly in service of the American people, because those dollars could be going to programs that would directly help working families, things like expanded unemployment insurance and economic impact payments, sometimes called stimulus checks. People, many of them your clients, are counting on that money to pay for essentials like rent, gas, and groceries, and yet for thousands still haven't received their money. So earlier this week, I sent a letter to the IRS asking them for detailed information about how they're dispersing this money so we can figure out what the holdup is. As members of Congress, our responsibilities lie not only in creating programs with the purpose of helping families, but actually overseeing their implementation. Before I ran for Congress, I spent my career in consumer protection. And as with employment law, the biggest problem is not that people do not have legal rights, it is that those rights are so distant from the reality. Businesses break laws, and consumers and employees have to lump it to accept the fact that to be a worker or consumer in this country is to feel and sometimes to be scammed and cheated. I'll admit that I often feel like I'm banging my head against a wall trying to get through to people like Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, who have no concept of the urgency of financial need among average Americans. But luckily, this isn't my first rodeo. In law school, while studying bankruptcy law with Elizabeth Warren, I talked to hundreds of families in financial distress. We designed studies to understand how families got these debts, and guess what? A big part of the problem is that they were not being paid a living wage, or they would have overtime and then not. But they would have jobs as temporary workers and then not, or that their employers would get into financial trouble themselves, often failing to pay wages. When I started law school, I didn't know that I'd be dedicating my career to helping consumers and defending average Americans against corporate abuse. But that work as a law professor and a consumer advocate was so rewarding. I am honored to get to continue to take these fights to Congress. We need elected leaders who understand, through personal experience or through study, what's it like to be a worker in this country. Our leaders are often people who inherited money or married money or made a lot of money. Most were professionals. Some have never held an hourly wage job or done manual work. Our representatives are separated by decades of time and often by class, race, and other barriers from the lived challenges that workers face. And this shows in our policy decisions, in our priorities. Since I've been in Congress, I've seen how this institution, like so many workplaces, is not built for typical Americans, but that is changing. With the election of more people who reflect America, people who have overcome challenges, who have fought uphill battles, who know the hardship and heartache that many Americans face. The 116th Congress is the most diverse in history, with a record number of women and people of color. We're showing America what happens when you elect a Congress that looks like our country. The first bill introduced in the House after the new Congress was sworn in, H.R. 1, the For the People Act, included an amendment I wrote that would make it easier for working moms to run for office. We've passed sweeping legislation to lower the cost of prescription drugs. We voted to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. These are just a few examples of how, when we elect a Congress that looks like America, that has overcome the same challenges as working people, we can make the progress that this country needs. I plan to continue to draw on my experience in corporate oversight and consumer protection to monitor coronavirus-related spending, to fight for the workers that this bailout is leaving behind, and to support the efforts of organizations like Legal Aid at Work. Legal Aid has been leading the way on these issues for over a century. You are a voice for Americans who don't have special interest groups lobbying on their behalf and who don't have billionaire donors bankrolling their priorities. Worker advocates are doing really incredible essential work to give the American people their rightful due, such as a workplace free from discrimination. When companies break the rules, you create consequences. You breathe air into stale laws and make those laws actually improve lives. But it's Congress's job to build a political and economic and social system that creates more equal power in the first place. We need everyone gathered here tonight to champion the idea of a just workplace and to fight like hell to make that a reality for all workers. I hope you'll see me as a partner in these efforts. Thank you so much for asking me to speak tonight. I'm truly honored to stand alongside you.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here. We're honored to stand with you. We're so fortunate to benefit from your tireless and dogged work to see that justice is served for the folks that we serve. Yours is a powerful voice in the House, and we're deeply fortunate to have you representing our state and bringing your considerable expertise, intellect, energy, and attitude to our common cause. Thank you. We know that strong policies and legislation are key elements to securing justice. We've worked to secure significant rights for working families, domestic violence survivors, discriminated girls in sports, immigrant workers, and others. Tonight, please remember to text workers to 41444 to support this work and make sure that it goes on for the future. Now it's my honor to welcome Lateefah Simon, the president of the Akhenaten Foundation, who will present this year's 2020 Matthew O. Tobriner Public Service Award to Alicia Garza.
Thank you so much. The inspiring words from Congresswoman Porter just really illuminate the power of tonight. It was only a few months ago where I happened to see her running down the Capitol stairs and I screamed for her like someone would scream at a rock concert. She's our rock star. And what an honor to have her in conversation tonight. And congratulations, Congresswoman. It's my honor tonight to introduce you all and invite you in conversation with Alicia Garza. Alicia she's my friend, she's my teacher, she's my sister. And Alicia, you know this, but I want to share a little bit of history. Our grandfathers rode together in movement over 60 years ago, before we were even a thought, a gleam in our mother's eyes. They were migrants from the Jim Crow South, and they found home and they found friendship and comradeship in the Fillmore district of San Francisco. Alicia's grandfather, a cultural artist, a brilliant saxophonist, a leader, anti-segregationist, found space in the Fillmore and met my grandfather, who was adamant about creating space for culture makers, knowing that the movement for racial justice and against racialized terror called for that creation of space. They build clubs together, meeting in political spaces together. And it was almost a half a century later that I met Alicia Garza when she was the executive director of an organization called Power, People Organizing to Win Employment Rights. And she was leading a fight, working in the depths of the Tenderloin and Hunters Point, organizing Black residents to illuminate what we so clearly already know, their power against corporate power and gentrification and the lapse of Black presence in San Francisco. And she was not only a fiery, clear strategist, but her heart, her smile, her clarity, and her clear goal to bring people together to fight, not only hard, but to fight to win, made me not only want to be her friend, her comrade, but made me want to ride alongside her. Alicia Garza, as you know, is the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, a lexicon that has created an international reckoning, this moment on race. But many who know Alicia, she's not new to this. The rallying cry of her and her sisters and brothers over the past many years are now literally written into legislation, from I Can't Breathe to police chiefs and mayors and governors calling for this reckoning and a transformation of how we think about how we keep each other safe. We bow down to your courage, your clarity, your heart, your warmth. And we know that in your spare time, you founded an organization, Alicia, a few years ago, the Black Futures Lab, which is a platform that is not only digital, but that is on the ground from the South to the North to here in the West, digging deep to reclaim this audacious notion that Black people deserve and need an opportunity to develop our dreams for not just now, but for our future. And that future involves joy and liberation and clarity. She has a third job, because we know that our grandmothers, and you've oftentimes told me this, Alicia, they worked 3 and 4 jobs, 5 jobs, but they didn't have the opportunity to live their lives calling for justice for a living. And you told us that it is your obligation to create coalition, like the coalition that you've developed with Legal Aid, to fight predatory power. That third job, she's the Special Projects Director for the National Domestic Workers Alliance. It is a national alliance lifting up the voices and power and strategies of domestic workers who are not only often not heard, but are not respected and dignified. From Monday to Sunday, oftentimes 20 hours a day, she's building coalition, stepping back more than she steps forward to ensure that people of Black skin, folks who are migrants and share the story of wanting to live in a true democracy promised to us all, have a platform to change the face of how we do business in this country. And so as we witness this movement, that I want to say, thank you, Alicia, for helping us midwife this moment of racial justice reckoning. We know that you remind us that we too have this obligation to do our best work in this moment. You've been very clear that the activist, the organizer, must build with the lawyers, the architects, to come together to bring the voices from the streets to the courtroom to Capitol Hill. You've asked us to reckon with this opportunity and what it provides, to not malign with the malaise, not only to listen, but to ground ourselves in action. You speak for and with the mothers who buried their sons, for and with Black folks and trans folks, queer folks, all voices that are hollering for what we know we all deserve, a liberty and a freedom that we have not seen yet. Alicia, you teach us, those who pray to God and those who pray to the light of liberation, that we are people of faith, that we can move towards something that we have not seen yet, a justice in a real free world. You give me hope, Alicia. You give me hope and a confidence that in not only in this moment, but that we have together what legal aid provides, what voices like yours provide, this unearthing commitment to lasting structural change. You model it, you harness it. And so I believe we are all so humbled to see the grace in your voice, in your action, in your commitment to live and commit your full life to this thing that we call justice. Alicia Garza.
Oh my gosh. Lateefah, you have outdone yourself once again. Thank you for such kind words. For those of you who don't know, Lateefah Simon, I believe, is my fairy godmother. And so what an honor. And what an honor to receive this award from Legal Aid in the name of a man who fought to ensure that everyone, no matter their ability to pay, was able to fight for their ability and their right to live as full and dignified human beings. These are incredibly tough times that we are living in right now. They are tough times, they are inspiring times, they are critical times, but most of all, it is a time of reckoning for this country. And it is so important for Legal Aid to be on deck, ready to serve, to help move that reckoning forward. We are finally in this country looking at the intersection of Black lives and our criminal system and our legal system. But it's not just about what's happening with policing or public safety. It is very much about an opportunity for us to unearth so much more in terms of what we need to do to bridge the gap between Black communities and what the law provides us, whether it be access to safety, whether it be access to dignity, whether it be access to being paid for our work, whether it be access to communities in which we don't have to worry about being murdered by the people who are sworn to protect and serve us. This moment of reckoning needs you, Legal Aid. It needs every single one of you who volunteer your time, volunteer your expertise, volunteer your passion and your commitment to force this country to live up to the values that it espouses. Right now, we are in a moment where laws and policies in this country, although they say they are intended to protect everyone equally, what we know from this moment of reckoning and moments of reckoning that have now passed is that laws and policies often protect the powerful at the expense of those who have been robbed of power. We have to not only shift that, we not only have to shift that, not just because it needs to be defied or challenged, but because, of course, those laws must be eliminated. Laws that hide the transgressions that we see so clearly every single day on our television behind names that have been hashtagged. Laws that are unfair, laws that themselves are criminal, laws that in fact turn decent human beings into criminals, into hashtags, or into names that we talk about in the litany of names that we have now had to learn of people who have left us too soon for no fault of their own. We believe at Black Lives Matter and at the Black Futures Lab that our legal system should ensure the dignity and safety of everyone. We believe that all people in this country deserve to be powerful and to live with respect. And as long as I'm breathing, I will continue to do that work to make sure that every space that we occupy in our society, in the economy, in our democracy, in our communities, is safe for everyone to live full and dignified lives. It's such an incredible honor to receive this award. And let me just say thank you to Legal Aid once again for being such an important resource for our communities, in ensuring that everyone, everyone is provided with equal protection, is provided with representation, but also, frankly, that every single person here in this room is joining with every single person in the streets now to make sure that we transform the systems that have left our people behind. Thank you so much.
Alicia, thank you so much. This is indeed a moment of reckoning for our community, for our country, for the people that we want to serve. Congratulations on winning the Tobriner Award. It's well deserved. You are such a leader in our community. And thank you deeply for your words tonight. They are inspiring and they should move us to action. We are on deck. We're on deck and ready to go, and we're ready to serve. And for those of you that haven't yet helped those efforts, one last time, text workers to 41444. And now, before we close things out, let's hear a few quick words from last year's keynote speaker, Wajahat Ali. Many of you are familiar with Wajahat's work on issues of racism, discrimination, multiculturalism, and lots of other things that are really part and parcel of our national conversation that's going on right now. Welcome, Wajahat.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Wajahat Ali, your keynote speaker from last year. And as you could tell, I went more fancy during lockdown. I hope you appreciate the lockdown hair and, of course, the t-shirt. And it was either me recording this in my study or recording it in my Honda Odyssey minivan. And there might be about 3 kids, 3 wildlings who burst through the door right now. But if they do, please forgive me. But like I said, it was either this or the minivan. If I recorded it from the minivan, there would be no shame. This appeal, honestly, I don't have to convince you guys. Legal Aid at Work does fantastic work, has always done fantastic work, looking out for the marginalized, looking out for the workers who make the society, protecting those attorneys who advocate on behalf of the bedrock of this nation. You might hear of them now as essential workers during this global pandemic. But if they were essential, how come we don't treat them as essential? How come we don't give them a living wage? How come we don't protect their rights? How come we don't give them the resources they need to survive, especially during a global pandemic, now a recession, which might turn into depression, and the fact that many of these workers come from Black and brown communities who are the most affected by coronavirus. They come from poor communities who are most affected from the coronavirus. They have elders and seniors who are most affected from the coronavirus, right? Andrew Cuomo of New York said, this pandemic has flattened us, but has not flattened us equally. And so if you have the means and you have the dollars, please give to Legal Aid at Work, a organization that has dedicated itself to actually uplifting and helping these essential workers who are sacrificing themselves literally right now so the rest of us can stay home during a pandemic and hopefully practice social distancing. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your contributions. I thank you for the work you're doing. And hopefully next year I can meet you all again in person. Take care.
Thank you, Wajahat, for adding your presence and passion to our program. I'm Joan Graff, President of Legal Aid at Work, and we are so pleased you joined us this evening. I hope our stories moved you and you leave us with a renewed commitment to our cause. Now more than ever, our organization and our partners in the fight for equity need your ongoing support. In the months and years ahead, with your help, we will work to eradicate the abuses suffered by low-wage workers. And as always, we will stand with and lift up the voices of those we serve, bringing their power and presence to educate, advocate, testify, and bear witness to the wrongs they have suffered. We hope that by this time next year, we will gather in person to mark our 105th anniversary. Until then, stay well, be safe, and persevere with us in putting justice to work.